Right, Gran Turismo 7 news. There's been a big cheating scandal that you may have seen in the GT World Series, and we think it's quite important. And we kind of want to explain why these sort of things happen. So we've got a group of people from all across Gran Turismo. Myself, we've got Liam, who you'll know from Twitch, who is a absolute top class Gran Turismo driver, racing in obviously the top split dailies, but also kind of like what I said, split three, maybe 3, 4 in the GT World Series.
Indeed.
And then we got Sam, who was racing a lot in GT Sport, actually has raced a lot with people like Super GT and Nathan Maximum and people that have gone on to do things in the World Series.
People a lot faster than me.
Yeah. So what's happened is there's been a combination of many factors, including smurfing, driving on other people's accounts, kind of boasting about races, and trying to get manufacturers to the World Finals. So if you want a complete breakdown of how this works, Gran Turismo is probably the biggest sim racing game in the world because anyone can pick up a PlayStation and drive it on a controller or on a wheel. It also has an esports championship that is arguably the most open esports championship in the world. Like anyone can really enter it. And the prize at the end is you go to real world locations. This year it's like Los Angeles and London and Tokyo, and you race against the other fastest drivers, and then the winners are crowned. There's no prize money, and there's no visible sponsorship, unlike other esports events. So it's very inclusive, and it's very open, but it's also very open to, like, misuse, basically. I don't know, Liam, if it's best for you to step in at this stage, like anything else about GT World Series that you want to explain, like how it works, like manufacturers.
So basically, how manufacturers works, if you don't know already, it's three regions: Europe, or European region, and then you got the Asia region, and then you've got the Americas region. And three of the best drivers from each manufacturer have to qualify. And basically, there's like 80 manufacturers in the game. The top 12 qualify. They earn points relative to how many points they score in their region, the highest points. And basically, it's a fight between the actual drivers in each region to become the best driver in that manufacturer. And then they go to the World Tour and compete. And at the moment, obviously, we've seen some manipulation of the system, which is unfortunate for the game. But I think you can add to that. Yeah.
Yeah, so the top 12 manufacturers go to the World Finals, and drivers at the high... So there's probably a pool of drivers in Gran Turismo who can get to the World Finals, but only
there's only a certain amount of that pool
will
who
go.
actually going to make it.
Yeah, so there's all sorts of jostling, and it can all be manipulated. Now, this manipulation's happened before because it's a competition where sometimes if you don't decide to race, you affect the amount of points in that race. So if you're already qualified, you don't race the last split because you don't want the most points to be available.
Yeah.
It's also why when I make videos and say, oh, this is a race in daily race top split, people go, oh, you're not top split. The reality is, like, a lot of these drivers are not driving in the daily race top split because they don't want to lower their driver rating. Yeah, so there's all sorts of account management going on. So what's happened here is some drivers have kind of chosen Renault, basically, to, I think, get into the World Tour as one of the 12 manufacturers, and they've been swapping accounts. Now, not all of the drivers for Renault have been doing this, and unfortunately, the fastest Renault guy is a guy in Japan, is probably no longer going to go to the World Finals because Renault have been disqualified points for this. If you want to jump at any point, Liam, let me know. But this was essentially found out because of some voice chat on Twitch where people were like, hang on, this person who's this account is not being driven.
Right person.
It's not been driven by that person.
Yeah, it's not the same person. Yeah.
And then incredibly, some of these people are boasting on Twitter about, I won this race, like maximum points, and they didn't drive. Okay. And then even more incredibly, and these are some drivers that I've looked up to, like I've publicly praised.
Me too.
When they've had great results at World Finals, where there is no cheating. I've praised some of these drivers at World Finals, been like, that's a great result. Like, you did a great stint there. But now they've been shown to be cheating, and they're not really apologising about it. They're saying, I don't really care.
Oh, so, really? Yeah. So they're actually being that...
Yeah.
They're just brushing it off. They're completely brushing it off. Like, oh, no, it's just a game, it's okay. We'll just do it. We'll just come back later and we'll continue like nothing really happened.
Yeah.
kind of unacceptable because it's everyone's pushing so hard to become a better driver and to showcase their skills, and then it just basically makes the whole entire scene look like a laughing stock. It's really unfortunate because there are a great bunch of people who are there to compete at the highest level and have a good time. It is a little stressful, but most people are there for the like pure reason of competition. But then you get a couple of drivers who want to abuse that system, and we get to this situation now.
Yeah. I think an analogy would be last season in Formula One, Red Bull want to get their position in the constructors, but Perez is doing shockingly bad. So what do they do? They get, I don't know, Sebastian Vettel, and then in the garage they swap in the overalls, and it's actually Vettel driving. But Perez goes on the podium and says, "Yeah, I won, and I got the fastest lap."
Like the Top Gear episode.
Like the
with
Top
James
Gear, with
the Stig was driving them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just completely replaced him.
But to go to like Liam's point, the issue I really have with this is that let's say you're a top 100 driver in the world in Gran Turismo. You've started on a controller, you've got faster, you've asked your parents to buy you a Fanatec wheel or something, and you're kind of top 100. And if you play your cards right and you get a little bit lucky, like fair luck, like the right combos, and you could go to a World Tour final. And the problem is, if you're that person now, you don't know whether people are cheating the game ahead of you. Like, you just don't know whether the whole thing is
if you
rigged.
miss out by like 2 places or something like that,
Yeah.
and then it turns out you've missed out because of this, you'd be absolutely gutted, wouldn't you?
So we do.
And the unfortunate.
Go on.
Oh, sorry. But the unfortunate aspect about this now is that the points that are deleted from Renault, they don't get like the other people who, like, for example, finish below them in their races that they did really well in. They don't get compensated by being bumped up a position to get more points. So even if their points have been deleted, the drivers that have finished below them aren't getting compensated. And on top of that, this whole format of the new season now, where 5 out of the 6 rounds count instead of it was like half of the rounds, which was last year, like 3 out of the 6 rounds counted. It actually impacts the people even more still. So it doesn't really do anything to fix the situation where the other drivers who were legitimate, were even streaming the races, so you can clearly see it was them. They're not getting anything back. Genesis are currently like fighting just to qualify, and I know several times where if they just didn't have those Renault drivers ahead, they would have been way more in a safer position to qualify. But here we are.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Change it.
I think that's where Polyphony need to step in and take more control of this, because I think a bit like the drivers have brushed it off and like, oh, I'll be back after my ban. I think Polyphony think, okay, by deleting the points, it's all good. And it's not. This shows something really rotten, because this can happen all the time. You're relying on the goodwill of drivers who are sometimes they're young drivers, sometimes they're pressurized, sometimes social. There's it's really interesting, like socially.
Yeah, I mean,
how these drivers
like you're saying about it, it's like a snowball effect. Like with them, as Liam was saying, deleting just Renault points. If I've missed out by, let's just say hypothetically, I've missed out by 5 points. And with Renault being deleted, I could have got extra 5 points. I'd be majorly upset about it.
Because you could have gone there, had a great experience.
Just
maybe,
the experience on its own.
Maybe showing it on your profile or something, and then you get picked up by a team. I did actually speak with a World Tour driver who wants to remain anonymous, who gave me the whole incredible story behind the scenes. It's absolutely mad, talking about how in one race... That's them right now. How in one race, one of the drivers just turned into Senna. The story's updating all the time. It's just like being a reporter.
They're very interesting.
Yeah, this driver turned into Senna, and it kind of raised eyebrows. Like, it's not impossible. It could be the luckiest, best race they've ever had. They're just on fire, but it raises eyebrows. That raised enough suspicions for people in the future race to tune into a Twitch stream and hear people saying certain things.
And that's how they got caught.
Yeah, it was reported to Polyphony. There was a screenshot sent to Polyphony. This is something that's happened because I've been when I was doing GT Sport, kind of like very aggressively. I was kind of involved in this sometimes. Like, I had drivers come on my stream and kind of abuse me, racially abuse me sometimes, and then pretend to be other drivers, and then it's all this kind of stuff. This has sort of happened again. There's been Discord chats. People have been lying in them. Then people have apologised and said actually they're really scared that the consequences are going to happen, so they kind of tell on their mate. That screenshot went around. That went to Polyphony. Polyphony then investigated all of the Renault team's IP, and then the IP addresses, and then they found out about these races. Some big esports teams involved here. Rival manufacturers involved as well. Like it really turns the whole thing into a complete
ridiculous
joke.
Yeah.
Like can't put any stronger than that. But we'll try and get some more quotes on this story. I don't know if you've got anything more to say, Sam. Anything more to say, Liam? To kind of how you feel about it.
I'll let Liam have the final word because he's way more involved in this than me. What would you guys like? What would you think they need to actually do to show that they mean business on this? Like, what should the consequences be?
Thing is though, like they have been banned, so it is confirmed they have been banned, so they can't race on their accounts right now. But thing is, it's never going to be a permanent ban. There've been drivers who cheated in the past who are back. I'm not going to mention names, but if you do some digging, you'll find out. But the thing is, it's all temporary. There's not like long-lasting repercussions for people who have completely just crossed the line. And like you said, it has to start with Polyphony. We as a community can't police this. Who knows? Maybe people have crossed the line, and there have been people mentioning it without actually mentioning names that they've crossed the line and not been caught. So how can we even verify that's true or maybe untrue? It's difficult to find out, and it's kind of setting a terrible precedent for the younger generation who are getting into GTWS now and the GT World Series and sim racing as a whole. That they're seeing all these drivers who they should be looking up to just basically breaking the rules and not really seeing a repercussions from it. And I just think right now we're seeing a lot of the like veteran drivers retire and leave, and I feel like it's just in a kind of a downward spiral right now where we need to try and solidify and build from this very low point and get back to where we belong as a community. Yeah.
Yeah, I think two things. I think IP address checks at this level. It's a shame because the beauty of the GT World Series, previously FIA, is that anyone has an equal chance of qualifying, right? But the reality is that's not the case. Yeah. The reality is you're doing all sorts of stuff to get your DR up, and then it's not like that. So we just need to, for these top drivers, I think, have IP checks. And as Liam says, I remember the generation of people like Baptiste Beauvoir, Coque Lopez, Valerio Gallo, these sort of drivers who really competed at World Tour events in person and gave us great memories. That generation is retiring. Coque Lopez, who I interviewed at a World Tour event in Amsterdam, he's been very frank about it. That it's not the most rigid competition compared to other esports events. I think he's doing Racing Unleashed now, and it's just run a bit more professionally.
Yes.
So I hope this new generation can, because a lot of them were kids basically. I know when GT Sport came out, and there is a lot of immaturity, and that's great. But if you want to safeguard the future of Gran Turismo esports, it kind of needs this this collegiality. I was involved in Forza esports this season with Logitech G Challenge, and yes, it's Forza. They're all racing on a pad actually, but there's a lot of collegiality there. Like they all want Forza esports to be successful. Yeah. Because Forza esports is not
together as like
exactly. Yeah, they recognise that the whole thing. So, here you can, if you're not far. Anyway, if you want to see more, we'll talk another video. I'll link all the Liam's channel and Sam's channels in the description, so go check them out. But very interested to know your thoughts, no matter what your driver rating, because we're all Gran Turismo drivers. It's our game. We all kind of basically pay for the GT World Series by paying for the game. So yeah, sad state of affairs, but let's see where we end up.